Fallout is now over 20 years old. Can you believe it? Of course you can. You saw the shows I made all throughout the month of September and fall Fallout anniversary extravaganza thing that wasn't really given a proper separate name apart from gaming history. Over 20 years. You know what that means, right? It means that Fallout 5 is being developed right now. And this is the top 7 things that Fallout 5 needs. Absolutely needs to be great. Now, why would I say that Fallout 5 is being developed right now? Well, it sort of stands to reason. Fallout 4 was released 2 years ago. Now, to you, that may not be a lot of time for a sequel to already be in development, but it kind of is, because Skyrim was released 6 years ago, meaning that the sequel to Skyrim, Elder Scrolls 6, whatever they're gonna call it, is gonna be probably announced next year and released next year. And because it's so close to being done, it means that Fallout 5 is now in the pre-production phase at least. So it would be the absolute best time right now to share my ideas with you and with Bethesda about how Fallout 5 can be the greatest. That being said, let's begin with number 7. Groin shots. I think it speaks for itself. Not being able to kick, punch, shoot, throw a teddy bear into someone's groin is really something that drags the entire Bethesda Fallout series down. What made the older games great is the amount of pettiness you could just cram into everything you did. You could be a small, vindictive little person just doing everything they could to make someone's life a living hell without actually killing them, or at least prolonging their suffering long enough to be enjoyable. And groin shots is a part of it. If you can't shoot someone's dick off, it's really not the most Fallout a game could be. So get on that, Bethesda, please. It'll be amazing, I guarantee it. You can have special animations where just everything explodes. You can have critical hits cause statuses like enemies dropping their weapons and clutching their crotch, temporary stuns, even knockouts. Groin shots open a whole world of new possibilities that must be explored. Number 6. Change the location or show the advancement of time. When we went from Fallout 1 to Fallout 2, we did clearly see how time advanced. The NCR did not look like shitty sands. It had Vault, 6, the one with the racists. That also looked very advanced. You didn't find trash, you didn't find anything that was lying around since the beginning of the war. It had places where you could clearly see that time passed, things evolved, people were rebuilding. People had rebuilt. Fallout 3, not so much. Fallout 4, can't either. You still found discarded stuff and places you'd think would have been looted ages ago and probably demolished and rebuilt. I mean, it's been over a century since Fallout 1. Way over a century since Fallout 1. So you either have to get with the times and show a world that's actually evolved, that's not as dilapidated, because, people would have probably stripped everything for parts and built something else on top of it. It's been quite a while. Or you can move the setting to somewhere else that's maybe a bit more horribly affected by the war, still in ruins, for reasons that, I don't know, maybe their vault's only now open and there's actually no one else living on the surface and they're just now emerging and slowly trying to recover what was lost. Like you could do an area where the vaults are just now setting up their gex, maybe one of their gex is broken, they have to trade supplies between them. You could do something with that. Or you could move it to somewhere else, move it to Europe. I don't think we actually saw anything about Europe in the Fallout universe. We have no clue what it's like there. Have it be set in London, or better yet, in actually modern day Romania, the city of Brela, because it kind of looks like it. No joke, people have been LARPing Stalker around here because the setting is just that faithful to the source material. It's horrible is what I mean. So do that. Either make the advancement of time visible or just put it somewhere else where it makes sense for things to still look like how they look. Number 5. World and character interaction. It's about time that Fallout went beyond what the first games allowed you to do. You couldn't go in through a window in the first games. You could do it in Fallout 4 if there was a couch next to a window and you could use the couch through the window and teleport inside. That's Sort of the idea I'm going for, being able to use a window to go into a house, but not through a bug, but because you can actually climb in through things, use the geometry, use the world to its fullest potential. Be able to use your laser rifle to shoot down a door, or hey, shoot down a wall. One aspect I liked from Fallout 4 was that you could build all those nifty contraptions, all those things, all those places, have everything be sort of constructed in that kind of idea, in a way that's consistent, in a way that makes sense, and allow the player to utterly destroy them. Completely, everything. Hell, have the vaults be destroyable too. Let the player just nuke the reactor core and randomly murder everybody. Not because there'd be a quest associated with it, but because the player is a dick and the destruction would be generated in the world, not some pre-scripted event. No, it's something that happens in the world because you triggered a reactor meltdown and every system failed and it blew up. Make buildings destructible, like high-rises. Oh look, there's these enemies that are shooting at me. They're in that big building. Okay, I'm gonna launch a Fat Man at the building and tear it down. Would that not be amazing? That would just escalate things incredibly. Yeah, the Fat Man was nice when you used it in Fallout 3 for the first time, but when you start taking down buildings with it permanently, it goes to a whole new level. It's the next logical step. Also have more interaction with the characters in terms of what you can do to them. For example, planting incriminating evidence on them. Let's say you stole something and now the guards are out to get you, but you planted the evidence in someone else's pocket. And when the guards catch up to you, they say, okay, search me, I didn't take anything, and they don't find anything. But you say, hey, I think that guy stole it, and they find it on him. And then they arrest him, or just beat the crap out of him, depends on what kind of place it is. Also, speaking about guards, have a more nuanced approach to how they do things, and characters in general. I mean, don't just have them all outright murder you if you grab something off a shelf. Have more nuance in there. More, hey, stop doing that. Or, hey, you're a dick, stop doing that. Or, hey, if you put a bucket over my head again and try to steal everything, I'm gonna send you to jail. Because it's the post-apocalypse, you gotta admit, I mean, humans are still not what you would call everywhere, so just killing people as a first reaction to theft wouldn't really fit all that much unless it's an area that has really low supplies of water and you're stealing water. In that case, yeah, absolutely. If it's a cultural thing, if it's out of necessity to keep everybody else alive, sure, have murder be the first choice, otherwise no. Speaking of that, number 4, more Fallout in character consistency and tone. Fallout was consistent. I mean, everything in it had an idea of what it was supposed to be. Every character did what they were supposed to do in that world. They were thought out from the get-go to have a place in that world. This is something you don't necessarily see all the time, at all sometimes, in the Bethesda version of Fallout. Characters tend to be a bit haphazardly put together and not really fit, or they're just plain absolutely boring and kinda bad. And I don't mean evil, just bland, uninteresting. And the tone of the games also kind of have the same problem, where you're given a task to save the world right now, and then you can just do nothing and there's no consequences and pretty much anything. I mean, if you're gonna have that sense of urgency, at least escalate things. If not, just don't have a sense of urgency. Don't start out with something that's supposed to be pivotal, with something that relates to another character, like finding your son or finding your dad or stopping the world from destroying itself. Don't start out with that. Start out the way New Vegas did, with you being shot in the head and then thinking to yourself, you know what, I'm gonna find that guy, I'm gonna murder him, but first I'm gonna pretty much try and remember who I am, why I'm here, why I suddenly have the ability to shoot people's face off at 100 paces blindfolded, and then I'll go on to do other things. But first, let's gamble away a fortune in New Vegas. Have it be a bit more consistent. Or deal with it like Fallout 1 and 2 dealt with the sense of urgency, with you being constantly reminded by the other people back at home, by the overseer or that spirit dude guy, that things are bad, they're getting worse, they need help, so quit stalling and get to work. Sure, things wouldn't actually go bad if you didn't, but still, it kept you in the loop. It kept you focused. Number 3, dialogue. Fallout 3's dialogue wasn't great. The way it was presented was kind of bland. You didn't really have that many options. You weren't really getting the sense that this was heartfelt heartfelt, detailed dialogue written by people that try their best to put every nuance possible into it. It was mostly written something that the voice actors can do without murdering each other, though that doesn't excuse the dialogue of the character itself, the player character. That didn't need voiceover, and it was still kind of bland and not thought-provoking. And then Fallout 4 came along and the dialogue went poof. Go back to Fallout 1 and 2 style. Have big dialogue. Lots of words, clever words. Have dialogue that's meaningful. Have dialogue that's meant to make you think. Have dialogue that really dives deep into the characters, deep into their motivations. Dialogue that makes you just want to read more dialogue, even if it's not spoken. Especially now since the Voice Actors Guild got a new contract, general contract for voice actors that stipulates a certain bonus depending on how many sessions they participate in when recording for a video game. Have more dialogue, have better dialogue, which is sort of tied into number 2. Make the game smarter. This sort of ties into pretty much everything we've gone through up until now, even the grunt shots of it. Fallout, to be truly Fallout, needs to be smart. And I mean smart. Not a game that makes you feel dumb. I mean, it doesn't have to be a game that has puzzles that just are absolutely obscure and inconceivable and impossible to solve by someone who doesn't have a PhD in astrophysics. No. I mean a game that is going to make the player think about stuff. A game that presents ideas to them, difficult ideas, and doesn't give them an easy answer. It makes them choose their own answer, their own solution to a problem that is so big that we don't have an answer for it in the real world. And I don't mean an equation, no, I mean social, philosophical, political, things that are absolutely going to make players hate themselves at the end or realize that there's a compromise they can choose so everybody can at least have partly what they want. And for that to happen, you need the world that's consistent, a world that makes sense, a world that's tied together where characters don't just do stupid things for no reason, where everything is functional, logical, in the vein of Fallout 1, 2, Arcanum, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. You sort of know what I'm getting at. Make a game that will actively try to make the player smarter, or at least question what they believe in. A game that can enlighten people, that can provoke them. And I don't mean provoke them in the sense that they'll punch the TV or the monitor. No, I mean challenge them at an intellectual level that doesn't have anything to do with the Tower of Hanoi puzzles that you usually see in games like these. Actually, I don't think Fallout did that. It was more of a Mass Effect thing. So do your best, your absolute best, to make the game smart. To add even the little touches that make the world real. And number 1 is... give it to Obsidian. Okay, Bethesda, you do games the way you do them. I know, you have your style, a lot of people like them. Personally, I think you kind of went downhill in certain areas since Morrowind. That was kind of your peak in certain aspects, not combat, but in certain aspects. You kind of went downhill in terms of depth and character and pretty much anything, but you still make very fun games. So you could give the next Fallout game to Obsidian, let them make it in more than 1.5 years, give them 3 years at the minimum. Don't stiff them on money again just because Metacritic isn't where you want it to be by 1 point, and let them do their magic. Because you know who Obsidian is made up of now, don't you? Tim Kaine is there. The man that literally made Fallout is there. Everybody, well, almost everybody that worked on Fallout 1 is there. Pretty much everybody that worked on Fallout 2 is there, where Chris Avellone isn't, but he'll come back for it, I know he will. He tends to do these things. So you basically have all the people that you would want to make a Fallout game in one single place. As long as you keep Sawyer away from balancing it. Don't let them do the balancing. Ask the RPG Codex why. They'll tell you in many pages. But you will have, at the end, a Fallout game that is as Fallout as possible. Peak Fallout. As in, there can be nothing more Fallout than this. Which would be an amazing way to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the series. Don't you believe so? Well, I do. Everybody does. I know, I asked them personally. Everybody on the planet said yes. Even you did. And if you don't remember, it's okay. It was in a dream that you had in which you said you were gonna make Fallout 5 via Obsidian. It was your dream, I mean. It was an Inception style thing. It was your idea all along. You know it was. Also, don't make the MMO as grindy and uninteresting as the Elder Scrolls Online, please. Well, that'll be it for the top 7 ways in which Fallout 5 can be the best Fallout ever. One special mention is included for having that kid whose doll you rip off in Fallout 2 be somewhere in the game world hunting you because, I don't know, you're a descendant of that guy, only he was evil, so, or not, no. You could actually have the player character be a descendant of that kid that took a blood oath to hunt down and kill the descendant of the guy who ripped off his doll. Again, that would be an incredibly petty thing to do, so it must be done. Goodbye.